Drawn white wine to clean the saucepan. All right, I will clean that up later, but here we go. Add those few extra layers of flavor. There's a butteriness about it, there's a nuttiness from the fennel, and to me it's kind of like candy. Welcome to the Simply Luxurious Kitchen, and welcome to my kitchen here in the Papillon. Norman is joining us, and we are going to make one of the most simple appetizers or nibbles for aperitif time that will surprise you how simple it is, because it tastes like as though it has so much delicate detail to it, which it does, but you do that in a very simple way. Let's get into making savory palmiers.
The first step of this recipe is to make the puff pastry. But again, this is optional because you can go to the shop or the grocery store and pick up puff pastry, and that will save you time. It's not hard to make puff pastry, it just takes a little bit more time. But if you're using high quality butter, such as the French butter that I love, your puff pastry will taste even better than anything you could buy in the store. So if you want to make your own, let me walk you through the simple steps to do so. So all you'll need are 4 simple ingredients plus some water. You'll need 9 ounces of unsalted butter, chilled or cold, so just pull it out of the refrigerator, 1.5 cups of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of cider vinegar, and then the water component is 3 to 4 tablespoons of cold water. All you want to do in your food processor is add the flour, the cubed or roughly chopped up butter, the salt, and then you pulse. Pulse until you have a grainy kind of sand-like mixture. Nothing smooth, nothing finished. Then gradually add the water and the cider vinegar. You can mix those together. That's just fine. And I start off with adding less, 3 tablespoons, and kind of see what it looks like. Once it starts to clump together, I stop. And if I need to add a little more water, that 4th tablespoon, I do so. And I often have to bend because it's so dry. That's all you have to do. Then you take it out of the food processor. You're going to roll it out to 16 by 10 inches. Once you've rolled it out to 16 by 10 inches, you're going to fold it into 3 layers. So looking at the dough that's laid out, think of it of thirds. Fold the first third over the second third, and then fold the final third over both of those 2/3. Refrigerate for 30 minutes. After you've done that for 30 minutes, you can leave this in for up to 2 days. That's absolutely fine. Then we're going to roll it out to the full size of 16 by 10 and then cut it in half because we're going to make a half a recipe of savory palmiers and a half a recipe of sweet palmiers. So your individual separate pieces will be 10 inches by 8 inches. And just set one aside while you work on each other. Now, let's go back to the kitchen and I'll show you how to make palmiers with your own homemade puff pastry.
So all you need to do is take about 2 tablespoons. Again, if you were doing the whole thing as a savory, you'll probably put 4. Very light layer though. You don't want it gushing Dijon mustard. You just want the hint of the lovely taste that is Dijon mustard. Okay, and just layer it across. So when I made these for the first time, I made them for a small catering event. It was an event for my parents, and I said, oh, I'll cook for you. And they were great helpers because I couldn't have done it alone. But this was the first thing I served. And again, it really tends to catch people's attention because it's different. You can hold it in your hand while you eat it. And then they take a bite of it. And who doesn't love butter? It just melts in your mouth. And then you have the layers of the cheese and the Dijon. And it just works really well for anything when you have to hold something in your hand. Then I recently just made it for a dinner party of a few friends, and this is what was ready for them when they walked in the door, along with a glass of sparkling wine. All right, so we have the layer of Dijon mustard on top of the cheese that was rolled into the pastry, and so now we're going to roll it so that the ends meet in the middle. Okay. And then you bookend it. It's like a book, okay? And if you can look at it real closely, you see the heart shape, whoop, whoop, and it doesn't look real fancy right now, but when you bake it, it will. All right. I'm gonna put that there for a second because we'll slice those in a minute. Now you do the sugar, and all you do to make it sugary is put the sugar in the dough, roll it out, roll it into, I should say, the dough, keeping it at 10 inches wide, and this would be 8 inches if I hadn't cut this in half. And then roll it in half, meeting together, and then book it, okay? Now all you do, don't smush it, don't do anything. Have these on a baking sheet and refrigerate for 30 more minutes. So you're refrigerating for 30 minutes 3 different times, 2 30 minutes to make the puff pastry. But if you were just coming home, as we just said, pulling out the puff pastry, rolling it out with the sugar or the savory elements, all you need to do is refrigerate for 30 minutes. So this is perfect. You come home, you roll out the puff pastry, you choose savory or sweet, you put those in, shape it like this, put it in the fridge for 30 minutes and go take your shower or sit down and put your feet up, whatever it is, and just relax. And that's all you have to do. Okay, Norman has joined me. He's in here supervising. And now we're going to prep it to bake in the oven. All you need to do is set the oven to 375 degrees. And now what you want, are you with your baking line, already having your parchment line baking sheets? You're not rolling anything out. You're cutting your pieces. So this is where you want a really straight edge. So it probably is very straight on one end, but not on the other if you cut them in half like we did. And I want to correct myself. This should be total 16 by 10 inches. And then when you cut it in half, it'll be 8 by 10. So just know that when you're rolling out the final puff pastry, you have it, roll it out to 16 to 10 or 16 by 10. If you're dividing it up like I did, then make them 8 by 10 when you've cut them in half. Okay, so you only want to cut them about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick, because remember, they're going to puff up. You don't want them super thick. And I think sometimes that is what I've seen in bakeries, is that they cut them so they're too thick. You don't want them that thick. You really want them quite thin That way they can rise, and then you have more, but all the flavor is still there. Okay, so we're gonna do just that. Don't push down too hard. This is part of the reason you chill it, is so that it's easy to cut through. So you can kind of see the heart shape. Now it looks like not much right now, but it will. So we're gonna put them on a baking sheet, and you do want to give them at least 3 inches in between, maybe 4 inches, so because they're gonna expand quite a bit. So we're gonna put 3 on each of these, and then I'm gonna freeze the rest, and I'll talk to you about that once we get this done. So don't push down, get a real sharp knife, and just seesaw it back and forth. You want to keep all the Dijon mustard in the actual pastry itself. Okay. About a 1/2 inch, no more. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Now that's the savory one. It's not done yet, but I do want to just finish up the cutting here. The sugar one, or the sweet one, again, make sure your edges are straight, and if they're not, just do a quick finishing cut. Same thing. Norman says, do I get one of those? I think you'll definitely get a nibble, buddy. After all, you supervised. Couldn't do this without you. Okay, same thing. Now, another detail to add more sweet to this is when you're rolling out this dough, is instead of putting flour on the rolling counter, or the surface, put sugar down. And that way, again, more sugar gets into the dough in all different places. Okay, so seesaw back and forth. It's chilled, so it helps. And again, just doing 3. Now these are not done yet. These are going to be wrapped up in plastic wrap, and then I put them in the freezer. And what I like about that is if I know a guest or a friend is coming over and we're going to nibble on these, then I put my oven to 375. I take these out of the freezer. Sometimes if I know well ahead of time, I'll put them in the refrigerator. But if I don't have that much time, you can still do it straight out of the freezer. You just have to add about 2 to 3 minutes to the time. You do have to have a very sharp knife, and you have to hold the end because it will fall apart in some pieces sometime. But as soon as you put it back together on the parchment, it will expand so much that you won't even know where it broke. And so these are fun to have in the freezer for a ready-to-go aperitif treat. Okay, now what I want to do for the sugar ones, I'm gonna shake a little sugar on each one of these, a little bit more. So they have 3 different components of where the sugar shows up: in the dough, on the floured surface, and right here, right before they go in the oven. Okay. And you can probably guess what I'm gonna do with these. I'm gonna put some more cheese on the top. So grate the cheese. You could even get a real fine grater and just right on top. All right. And honestly, the more the better, because it'll expand. I mean, you don't want to go too much, but don't get neat about it. Oh, I love gruyere. Okay. I'm one for the chef, the cook. Okay. All right, the oven light is off. Now I have done these 2 different ways just to see how they work. So you want to bake them for a total of 20 minutes in the oven. I have seen recipes that tell you to flip it over at about 8 minutes in. I've also not done that, and they turn out just fine and just as lovely. You're baking them until they're golden brown, erring on the more brown than light. And you'll know. And then you just let them rest and cool for, you don't want to eat them hot, but you can eat them warm, but they're just as awesome, cooled and waiting for you to nibble on them at any time of the day. So let's put these in the oven for 20 total minutes. And I would say check it at about 8 minutes. Oop. And we're about ready to enjoy a very simple, very delicious appetizer. I'll see you in 20 minutes, but we'll do it fast time. Okay, the kitchen is smelling of savory scents, but then a hint of the sugar is coming through too. So the kitchen doesn't know what it has in it. Savory, sweet, wow. But oh my gosh, you can smell it. Mine were in the oven for only 17 minutes. So do a total of 17 minutes. So do, check your oven, every once in a while just to see. It's not gonna hurt it to open the door up or take a peek and turn the light on, whatever you need to do. All right, Norman's getting some water in the basket and boot room, as I've now renamed my mudroom. And he'll be here shortly, I have no doubt, with the smell that I'm smelling. Whew. Okay. Yeah. Look at these beautiful golden, yum. Nice golden color. Did you get some good water? Okay. Good dog, bud. All right. These look so good, don't they, Norman? He's like, when do I get to eat some? When do I get to eat some? All right. So I love how, you have almost like a Parmesan crisp, even though it's a gruyere crisp there on the edge. But for appetizers, I just get a small, narrow platter. And we're just doing the savory ones for appetizers. But we'll taste both of them. Okay. All right, time to try our palmiers. Now let's try the sweet first. I enjoy these with a cup of tea. Oh, see how just easily that broke? And all the layers. It just melts in your mouth. It's as if it's just this weightless. You can put as much sugar as you want in here. I didn't put a ton of sugar in here. Just 3 tablespoons for the whole thing. And it's just subtle, sweet. It's just a nice little moment. One more bite. So. Very good. All right. Now let's try the savory. Now, because they are flaky and buttery, you might have a mess with your guests as you are enjoying them. So just keep that in mind. But you know what? It's worth it. It's so worth it. Okay. Just want to let you see this. Oh. Okay, ready? Now the cheese here is keeping it together, but the pastry wants to fall apart. So good. The mustard, the Dijon mustard, it's a spice, so it's got heat, but not hot. It just adds that something something that so it's a comfort, but it's also something unexpected because you're biting into a flaky, buttery pastry. You don't expect mustard. You might expect some cheese, like a cheese puff, but the mustard is an extra addition of that savory element. It just makes it something surprising and delicious. I paired it with a French Chardonnay, but any crisp wine, whether it's white, rosé, a sparkling wine from Prosecco to Cava to Champagne. Pair it with what you enjoy. Why I choose sparkling wine is it's a way to welcome people into the house. It's a celebratory drink to say, I'm so glad you're here. And then start nibbling on these and enjoy an introduction to what will assuredly be a wonderful evening. I'll be back here every Saturday for the next 8 Saturdays to welcome you into the kitchen and give you ideas for not only enjoying your day, but enjoying your food and enjoying stepping into your kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me. Bonne journée.